by 8 a.m. in the morning, not only had he sworn on TV Boris Johnson had hidden in a fridge in a total disaster, he had been absolutely soaked in milkshake. So in the final straight of the campaign, the party leaders are going to be travelling all around the country, crisscrossing everywhere. Let's talk about battle buses, which people obviously have seen on TV, but may not know sometimes that can be where romances form between different journalists. There's one married couple in Westminster whose romance started on a battle bus. Battle buses, what are they really like?
Yeah, I'm a battle bus veteran, John. This is my 4th general election going on battle buses. And for 2 of those, I worked for an organisation where I was essentially the pool reporter. So you're the reporter that is there at everything, so the other reporters don't have to be. That actually can be quite interesting. It can also be quite boring and tedious because you go up and down the motorway over and over.
Hear their parties say the same thing over and over again to different audiences, and so it's fresh for them, exciting. But
for you, you've heard it 1,000 times. It rattles around your head when you're in your dreams.
And this campaign, you've been on Rishi's bus so far, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I interviewed the Prime Minister on his battle bus. It's quite a swanky one. I think from memory, it is the same one that was used by Theresa May. So I went on the battle bus to interview the Prime Minister, and we went to Henley, which is obviously a very nice part of the world. The problem with these things is you turn up somewhere, you do your interview, you get back on the bus. You're only ever there for probably 20 minutes, half an hour. While we were in Henley, the Lib Dems pulled off a little bit of a stunt because the Prime Minister was sat having a chat to constituents. On the river, the Lib Dems went past in a boat, shouting things, holding up banners. That's a good kind of coup for the Lib Dems. But this is what happens on battle buses. You kind of get on and off. The people who are on the battle bus, the operations are always trying to keep it top secret to stop people ruining their event. But the opposition parties always find out where you're going. So it's very difficult.
And I've been on the Labour battle bus, which is being taken around the country mostly by Angela Rayner, has kind of commandeered the bus. Went on the maiden voyage. We went around the M25 when it was on the first stretch. And that is obviously a big red bus with change in big letters on the side, which possibly not surprised. Inside she had the fridge where she had a lettuce.
What's in the fridge?
The fridge, well, in the fridge was lettuce, which looked like the Liz Truss lettuce.
Okay.
So classic joke there.
Hilarious.
And then Keir Starmer's been going around the country. He's got a press bus following him, but he's not had a kind of red branded Labour bus, although he has borrowed it at some points. But we actually were on Boris Johnson's battle bus together in 2019 when in the final days of the campaign, it was that campaign in December, it was cold, it was the run up to Christmas. We went to everywhere we went, we were there when the JCB went through the wall.
Pie making.
Get Brexit done. Yeah, the pie making where he glazed a pie which said, get Brexit done. We went to, was it a wrapping paper factory in Wales where I can't remember that.
Know what happened there,
but I'm sure there's a present that said get Brexit done on it. But we were also there for that infamous morning at a dairy. I think it was it Pudsey in West Yorkshire near
Definitely
Leeds.
West Yorkshire, yeah.
And it was early in the morning. I think we got up at like 4 a.m. or something. It was pitch black.
Freezing cold.
Freezing cold. And what happened?
Well, Boris Johnson ended up in a fridge live on TV. It was quite a morning. I think we were still bleary-eyed, weren't we? And just very cold and thinking, what on earth are we doing here?
I can just remember it being so dark and me thinking, oh gosh, this is like so dark. It's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
We're in this pitch black farmyard somewhere. And then suddenly these TV cameras came on and Good Morning Britain were there to try and get this interview with Boris Johnson that he promised to do, but he didn't do. And so he went into the fridge. Also, there was a number 10 aide who was also caught off guard and accidentally swore on TV.
Live on TV.
So we got bundled on didn't quite realise what was happening.
Yeah.
I didn't quite clock. We saw him going in and out of the fridge, but you didn't quite clock that he'd hidden in the fridge and it was going to become this big story that people remember now. And we got bundled back on the bus. I remember looking on my phone and watching the live feed of Piers Morgan ranting on TV about what had happened. And so the poor number 10 aide got on the bus and obviously was getting loads of messages in the Tory campaign because he'd sworn on TV. And there's a bit of that story that people don't know, an added bit of how his day got even worse because at the dairy, they kindly gave us these bottles, these pint bottles of milk that had milkshake inside, so chocolate milkshake. I think some of them were strawberry.
Yeah.
I think I had a strawberry one, and it was so cold. So we got on the bus, I wrapped it in my coat and put my coat above the seats on the coach, and we got off at the next stop, and I completely forgot that the milk was there. Pulled the coat out from there, the milk bottle came down, and the milkshake went all over the number 10 aide who had sworn on TV. And so by 7 a.m, or it might have been 8 a.m, by 8 a.m. in the morning, not only had he sworn on TV, Boris Johnson had hidden in a fridge in a total disaster, he had been absolutely soaked in milkshake. So a pretty disastrous day.
It was a terrible day. And I think, to be fair, I think it was a very nice coat he was wearing, so that's probably been ruined. I don't think it was solvable by a dry cleaner.
And you were on the... Who else were you on the bus? So Theresa May, Ed Miliband in 2015.
Yes, Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband is the one that sticks in my mind the most because it was my first one and I was on it for the whole of the campaign. So it really was kind of an endurance feat. I mean, it means I am part of a very special club, John. I can reveal this, that I'm probably one of only a dozen people, and to the day I die, I will be part of this very special club that nobody else will ever be able to join. I am one of the few people who has actually seen in person the Edstone.
Oh,
yeah.
I wonder what you were going to say then.
And it was one of those where you're slightly punch drunk because they kind of, I think they like to keep you punch drunk. They like to keep you tired and confused so you can't cause mischief. They want you to be always slightly, subpar. And so
you never know where in the country you
don't
are.
know. They don't tell you.
You're popping up in random constituencies. You're like, why are we here? Stopping at random schools.
Yeah. Just trying to work out if you've got enough clothes and enough toothpaste to see you through the campaign. I didn't, but anyway, that's another story. And so I know all I can really remember is that I started the day leaving a hotel in Glasgow at 5 a.m. I ended up in Hastings, but between leaving the hotel at Glasgow at 5 a.m. and arriving in Hastings at something like 11 a.m, we stopped off somewhere, I can't remember where, to look at the Edstone. And it was one of those things where I was so tired and so confused. And I looked at it and I just thought, God, this is weird. But maybe this is what people do, And I was there with a photographer from the organisation I was working with, and he took loads of pictures. But weirdly, it was embargoed. So the Labour Party decided this was a really good story to give to a Sunday newspaper. And so they embargoed it. So the story in the pictures didn't appear for days. And then it was, so I'd completely forgotten about it and moved on with my life. And then, 2 or 3 days later, all of a sudden all these pictures appear with Ed Miliband and the Edstone, and they just looked terrible. I mean, they looked terrible. And obviously immediately everyone then christened it the Edstone, and it became this just a source of mockery for Ed Miliband for the rest of the campaign. Now, for quite a long time afterwards, people were trying to find out what happened to this stone, and Labour would not tell anybody. It was taken off to some storage unit and locked up, so nobody could ever get any more pictures of it.
Into gravel.
I think that's
never
it.
To be
Eventually,
seen again.
they smashed it up, so nobody will ever see that great piece of manifesto promise
Political history
in life.
again.
Yeah.